Hello and welcome everybody to the Harbor Commission April 2026 regular meeting. I'm Adam Stanowick calling to order this meeting at 6:30 p.m. And let's start off with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Cohen is absent. Commissioner Hymas is absent as well. Commissioner McCrae?
Here.
Commissioner Nelson?
Here.
Commissioner Stedman?
Here.
Chair Stanowick?
Here. Thank you. Director Wiltshire, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
Chair Stanowick, no, we're good to go.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lopez, moving on to a general public comment. Do we have any general public comment that is online or submitted? I believe we have a few, right?
Chair Stanowick, we do. We have 3 speaker slips submitted and 1 individual online who would like to speak as well.
Okay, let's start with the online one. And the online one can go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, Steve Worthington calling. I just, in reviewing the roster, it appears there are several new staff additions as well as some new city council members who rotated in the Harbor Commission. So I wanted to recap regarding the Ledbetter Beach situation so that everybody's up to speed. The ADA, American with Disabilities Act, was passed in 1990. In March of 2024, 997 people in this town signed a petition which was presented to both the Harbor Commission and City Council members. This petition requested that the city bring Ledbetter Beach bathrooms up to ADA standards as required. To be clear, those facilities have not met access requirements of the Act. The petition also requested that the City of SB not modify the bathrooms at Ledbetter, rather just bring them up to ADA standards. This petition remains available on change.org. March 21, 2024 meeting, it was over 2 years ago. These people live here and they vote. With regards to the petition, then staff said at that meeting, recent comments by email indicated an interest in doing just the ADA project. It's really tough to do that with this kind of project in totality. It's really tough to do that. We'd have to be a little bit inefficient and cost more. If it breaks down to just ADA, we'll have to resubmit plans. Well, fast forward to today, and we've got a 30-year plan in front of us with, no one's denying, maybe $100 million. This changes Ledbetter and how it operates. I think I also read that the bathroom's going to move to West Beach, and that just leaves anybody who swims without an ability to dry themselves off, take a shower, warm up. I don't know, just put it another way, City and Harbor have ignored what 1,000 people have asked and is required by law. Pretty simply, this project, so far as I've seen, is very futuristic. It's funded by grants, but there is no funds to actually do anything, nor is it approved anywhere. And this is in a city that's in deficit, in a county that's in deficit, in a state that's in deficit, and a country that's $39 billion of debt, and the city itself is $340 million of that debt. So, very simply, time's of the essence. People want their bathrooms up to par, and they wanted them that way 5 years ago, or 2 years ago at least, and just stop whatever else you're doing and get it done. It's a duty of care, loyalty, accountability, and preservation of the public's trust in government. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Worthington, for the public comment. Okay, is there any other speaker slips submitted online, Mr. Lopez?
Chair Stanowick, there are no other hands raised in Zoom.
Great. Okay, we can move on to in-person public comment.
First, we have Matt Ward.
Hi, good evening. Yep, you have.
Good evening.
Hi, you have 3 minutes.
So I prepared this statement. It's basically a get to know each other statement. The name of our tribe is called the Central Coast Chumash Tribal Council. I represent this tribal organization with my cousin Paulie Bustillos, who's the Secretary and Treasurer, sitting back here. My brother's one of the board members. And I'll start off with good evening, Harbor Commission. My name is Matt Ward. I am the chairman and the historian for the Central Coast Chumash Tribal Council. We are here to introduce our tribe, the Central Coast Chumash Tribal Council, whom are the descendants of the village of Siuktun through Chief Yananali and Escolastica Maria. Lineages that are documented through modern DNA testing done in 2006 that would confirm ancient ties to a 10,300-year-old cave man found in Prince Wales Island in Alaska. The DNA of modern Santa Barbara descendants of Escolastica Maria, whom was baptized in 1788 at the Mission Santa Barbara, confirmed this. The Central Coast Chumash Tribal Council are acknowledged California Indians as defined June 1st, 1852, that are the fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, uncles, and aunts of persons whose names appear on said census rolls. California Indian ancestors are confirmed and documented through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Our ancestors are. California Indian treaties, the 18 unratified treaties from 1851 to 1852, and we're tied to these treaties, and we're the first documented Indians of the San Ynez Mission Indian census in 1894 as Mission Indians. There was a lawsuit that was created in on May 18th, 1928, that authorized the Attorney General of California to file suit in the Court of Claims on behalf of California Indians to seek compensation for the 18 unratified treaties from 1851 to 1852. The Indians of California on the 1933 roll, April 19th, was the first judgment payment. It was a per capita check for only $150. And that was for lands that were 64 million square miles of lands that were never paid for. That was the first payment. And the last California Indian roll of 1972 was an Indian judgment payment. A lot of people got $500 to $700. And anyway, I just wanted to kind of briefly explain to you how important it is to us as the Harbor Commission to be acknowledged here as the original ancient people of this land, and specifically of Siuktun. And we're not, there's very few people that have these documents. There's a total of 44 people that were legally Indians in this state to this area that were recognized in 1938. So there was a total of 77 people, but 44 that were legal voting age. So very few people. There's a lot of people that claim this ancestry, but not through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So there's a legal obligation, and I think that it's important that we have some consideration. And with saying that, I thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Next, we have Angelina Dedimonte and then Carol Shaw afterwards.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners and Director. My name is Angelina Dedimonte, and I'm a certified ADA advocate and consultant with decades of experience ensuring equal access for individuals with disabilities. It has come to my attention that the bathrooms and showers at Ledbetter Beach in Santa Barbara are not currently in compliance with American with Disabilities Act, ADA. The lack of access violates federal mandates and poses as a potential liability to the City of Santa Barbara, the Harbor Commission, and the local taxpayers. While the Waterfront Adaptation Plan recommends the removal and relocation of these facilities, I believe the immediate remediation of the existing facilities must be the highest priority without delay. Addressing these issues now is more cost-effective than relocation, and ensuring that individuals with disabilities are not denied access or placed at risk or injury in addition to their exhibiting plumbing that is currently there, and retrofitting is a quicker process and much more streamlined process. As you are aware, Title II of the American with Disability Act requires that all programs, buildings, and facilities provided by public entities are accessible. This includes mandates under Section 35.151 regarding alterations and 35.133 regarding maintenance and accessibility features. The accessibility issues have been overlooked for years, and we cannot rely on long-term adaptation plan that lacks immediate funding or foreseeable timeline and remedy. I urge the directors and commissioners of this board to make an expedited request to the mayor, city council, city manager, and city attorneys to bring these facilities into compliance without further delay. I'm happy to donate my time pro bono to work with the staff and the Harbor Commission to develop a simple, streamlined, aesthetically pleasing solution that aligns with the harbor's character and resolve the issues promptly. Thank you for your time and consideration. Have a great night.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
And then finally, we have Carol Shaw.
Hi.
Hi, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Yep.
I'm really here just to, as a way of reminder, because for all the people that signed the petition to stop the demolition of the Ledbetter Beach bathroom, we don't know when to show up. In terms of the 30-year plan that's in place, I'm told by Mr. Bolton that it's conceptual, but things could be voted on and decisions made relative to the Ledbetter Beach facilities in other circumstances, and we're asking for more transparency so that we know that this is being voted on because this is of concern to the swimming community. As to the bathroom, not just the ADA, but in terms of moving that bathroom under the plan, under California Regulation 7982, sorry. You can't move it that far away. You can't move it to West Beach. If you're going to provide parking, the state mandates that you have to have bathroom facilities and changing facilities at that beach. So that can't just be moved a considerable distance, not just because of, for everybody who's using that beach. Think about it. If there's a parking structure, if there's parking, people need to defecate. What are you going to ask them to run down to West Beach? This is not, this is not going to work. So the other thing is in terms of the 30-year plan, I'm mentioning it now, even though the environmental assessment is done as part of permitting, I'd like to see this, to see the city open the lens up to like seventh generation, more of a Chumash approach to, let's say, or a more nature-based approach to consider alternatives, such as, and this has been done in other areas that have ocean sea level rise, sea level rise and beach erosion by providing, like a rewilding of the kelp forest, or also the creation of an estuary, and rather having hardscape, which is an old school version of how to deal with incoming high tides, and seawalls, which have proven to be difficult in, they're not perfect, that maybe we should be considering approaches that other nations and other locations have used to deal with these very same issues that are born from climate change. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Lopez, is there any other public commenters online or any other speaker slips?
Chair Stanwyck, there are no other hands raised or speaker slips submitted.
Okay, thank you. I also want to take note that we did receive 2 written public comments, one regarding the RV campsite and one regarding slip fees. So thank you to Mr. Lopez for sending those out. I read those, and those were very, detail-oriented and provides good input for us. Thank you to all the public commenters today. Just so you all know that we don't take action on any of these comments because we're bound by the California Brown Act, but part of the reason why we fill out the speaker slips is so the waterfront can reach out and discuss any issues going forward. So thank you all. Moving on to our work group reports. I believe we do have one work group that wants to report, and that is the strategic planning. Commissioner Anderson.
That's right. Yeah, this strategic work group fired back up again after Kate's departure. We met March 26, and the members, Stedman and Mr. Nelson, were reviewing the citywide strategic plan that they recently published. And our goal is to review that and see where the city council has prioritized potential ideas and projects, and we're going to analyze that and meet again, hopefully next week, to discuss our thoughts and findings. And then once the work group meets again, we'll reach out to staff and the director and see if there's a way we can align our efforts to move forward. And we should have another update in May with those details.
Thanks, Commissioner Anderson. Does any other commissioner have any work group agendas left to report on? All right, we move on to item number 1 of the consent calendar, the approval of the minutes. Mr. Lopez, can you please read the recommendation for us?
Yes, this is item 1, recommendation that Harbor Commission waive further reading and approve the minutes from the regular meeting of March 19th, 2026.
Thank you. All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Mr. Lopez, can you please give us a vote?
Yes, and this is a motion to approve the consent calendar by Commissioner Stedman, seconded by Commissioner McCray. Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen is absent, as is Commissioner Hymas. Commissioner McCray.
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yes.
Commissioner Stedman.
Yes.
Chair Stanwyck.
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously with Commissioners Cohen and Hymas absent.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. Item number 2, the presentation on marine heat waves and ocean temperature fluctuations in the Santa Barbara Channel. Mr. Lopez, can you please read the recommendation for us?
Yes, this is item 2, recommendation that Harbor Commission receive a presentation from Professor Gretchen Hoffman of the University of California, Santa Barbara, focused on marine heat waves and temperature fluctuations in the Santa Barbara Channel.
Thank you. All right, turning it over to the waterfront.
Yeah, Chair Stanwyck and Harbor Commission, I just wanted to thank and welcome Dr. Gretchen Hoffman for her presentation tonight. I know the Harbor Commission's been talking about it for quite some time, so I appreciate her time and her willingness to come and speak to us and share some of her information. So thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for joining us tonight, Mrs. Hoffman.
Absolutely. First, it's a pleasure to be here, Commissioners. I'm really pleased to be here to share some information that I think is relevant to the work that you do, where we live, and also is going to be important for the economy and recreation in Santa Barbara. So I'm really happy to be here. So what I want to do tonight is kind of make a presentation. Go ahead and advance. That talks about marine heat waves, kind of sets the stage a little bit, talk locally and globally, and at the end, I want to share some resources that could be of use to everyone. If you've been looking at the news lately, this came out April 4th, about 10 days ago or so, in The Guardian. Scripps was reporting record high temperatures down in there in Southern California. March has been one of the warmest months on record in this year, and so, next slide, sorry, going back and forth. And if you go to some of the resources online, this is a NOAA coral reef watch graph that shows this major warm water event right through the center, that tail reaching to Baja on our coast. And so right now, you've all probably heard that there's a big El Nino setting up, but this figure shows marine heat wave events across the Pacific reaching all the way to our coast. Next slide. So, hit it again, sorry. And again. So marine heat waves, it sounds like a common phrase, like we all understand we have heat waves on land, but marine heat waves are specifically a term that oceanographers have actually applied and have set standards on it so that we can compare around the world how many we've had. And by definition, the people that created them, Australians who had horrible heat waves in 2011, and it's inspired them to do this. A heat wave has to last for 5 days, and it has to be hot enough to be like hotter than the 95th percentile, but that just means it's super hot for more than 5 days or longer, and then you can call it a heat wave. And so that allows everyone around the world and all the world's oceans to compare what's going on with these events. Hit it. So think back, and I want to read the record. Nico's been so helpful getting me here, and I apologize. I should have been here last year. But if you think back to September last year, remember how humid it was? It was just nasty, and it was hot, and everyone was complaining, and it was because we were having one of the largest marine heat waves we've had in a while on our coast, and it was bringing all this hot, humid water from the ocean onto our coastal land. Go ahead. And this is what that looked like from a sea surface temperature anomaly graph. So the hotter the color, the warmer the color, the hotter it is. And it was a mass of water that was just moving onto our coast and covering a huge amount of the Pacific. So it's one of the bigger extent heat waves we've had last year. Hit it again. So we've had these in the area, and this is the history now of what's going on. Back in 2014 to 2016, we had an event that set up like that, a big blob of water, and we hadn't seen those yet. And the oceanographers were like, "Well, it's still there. It's like a blob." And so meteorologists and oceanographers started calling that water mass a blob, and the name stuck. So now we call that huge event in 2014, 2016, the blob. And you can read fancy scientific papers, that title has the blob and what it did. And so on the right now, we have a figure. Everyone decided, okay, we just can't start calling things the blob and the weird thing and the gooey, we just can't do that. So we now name marine heat wave events as place and time. So NEP is Northeast Pacific 2024. And that A means that's the first one. And unfortunately, we have A's and B's and they just keep going. So hit it again. So back in the blob days, oceanographers started talking to each other, wow, we think this is the new normal. We think this could just keep going. And this is a paper from 2017 where people were trying to model what might happen. And so now I want to share with you where we are in our region in the Santa Barbara Channel. So I'm part of a research group that's funded by the National Science Foundation called the Santa Barbara Coastal Long-Term Ecological Research Program, LTER. And we've got sensors up and down the coast from the top, the surface where we measure marine heat waves to the bottom on the benthos. Arroyo Camado on the right, Mohawk Reef on the left are a couple of our sites right off of Hendry's. And this is how long we've been collecting data, 2004 to, we're still going, 2026. But this shows the data for 2024 and 2025. So what you can see here in 2014 and 2016, that's the blob. That's the hot water that came, really affected our region, caused crashes in natural populations in kelp forests. But then we thought, well, it's over. But no, 2018 was hot from July through December. So it's kind of an off and on thing. But what we really feel now is that we're in a new regime of having these years that can be intensely warm. So around the world, people are talking about this. Thomas Wernberg, this is one of his reviews. This is a paper of his that he wrote a summary on saying, hey, here are all the things, movements of organisms, mortality of organisms. We've got coral reef, seagrass meadows, fishes, invertebrates, and they're trying to capture the impacts of these marine heat waves because they're going on all over the planet. And so locally, what I wanted to share with you is the things that we've seen and we may see in the next year. These warm temperatures stimulate harmful algal blooms, which can, as you know, have the consequences for our local marine wildlife. There could be some fisheries-related impacts where there are mortalities or shifts in species ranges. One of the biggest responses of organisms is to move, to get out of there, and anybody who fishes around here knows that. And the thing that I have to say is, right now, we have this big El Nino setting up. We think it's going to be hot. It's been hot, but things are so unusual right now. I think people are not willing to make big predictions about this is what's going to happen and here's what the summer's going to be like. But the one thing I can tell you is that by looking at all our data year after year, we have what we call now a marine heat wave season, where things start to set up in July, and kind of the hot water recedes from the coast by about late October, November. Sometimes it goes all the way to Christmas. 2018 is a great example where in July to Christmas, we had 5 major marine heat wave events that lasted from 7 to 21 days, and it was just like boom, 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 boom. So I want to show you some data really quick. Let's hit it again. So one of the things that's really important, and this is critical for our community, our fishing communities, is that we first started talking about marine heat waves as a research community by looking at satellite data at the surface. Then people started looking at, well, was it going down in the water column? And now we know it is. And some of the data from Santa Barbara has been really important because the SBC LTR and our community together were some of the first places to show this for a really rich marine temperate reef community, kelp forests. And so go ahead. So we know it's on the bottom. So it's called vertical structures of marine heat waves, and it really interacts with fisheries and what's going on with wildlife. Yeah. And here's some data to show you what that looks like. So this is the bottom at Mohawk Reef. And, you know, sometimes our divers come back and like, look at my computer, it was 70 degrees on the bottom. So the gold line is 2024, the red line is 2025, which was really warm. And if you see that top area, the gray is kind of the average. But you can see how August, September, and October, holy smoke, we spent a ton of time at 18 to 20 degrees, which when I first got here in the early 2000s, that was unheard of. Like, that just didn't happen. So the reason sometimes these warm temperatures are important is timing. So in the Santa Barbara Channel, some of our important marine invertebrates, I'm just going to use this example, make their gonads. Gametogenesis, we call it in the business, but at a restaurant, you call it uni, right? And so, yeah, baby. So it's our red sea urchin, and now purple sea urchins are being ranched. But the hot times are occurring, those red peaks, those are marine heat waves, they are occurring when these animals are trying to make their gonads. And you can just guess that hot years result in poor gonad formation, and some of the graduate students and some of the funding we have help us understand that, and news is not good. And so we're continuing that work to try to understand that interaction a little bit better. But the timing of these events is critical, and you can think about it for any organism you're interested in. Fish, the kelp, it applies. And these are anomalously warm temperatures that these organisms really have not evolved to see and are starting to see regularly. This didn't happen 20 years ago, but it's happening now. So the resources, last 3 slides. So locally, we are super lucky that we have all these data coming in. Our temperature data, a lot of other things we're collecting, biodiversity information is publicly available at the Santa Barbara Coastal LTR's data catalog database. You can get in there. We've got sensors at Stearns Wharf, Carpinteria, Arroyo Camado, Mohawk. So we're able to share all this information regularly. So that's local. So the next one is all of California. Scientists at the Southwest Fisheries Center and others have gotten together and created what's called, I love it, the Blob Tracker. And so that is a very good site. You can go on there and get up-to-date information about what's going on. They'll try to do some forecasting. They have excellent images. So it's a great thing to look at. And last slide. Here we go. So NOAA, at a grand scale, they have this thing called the Coral Reef Watch, where they use satellite data globally to look all over the world. But because marine heat waves became such a thing, they created this marine heat wave watch page. And here at the bottom, those color squares, now we're dividing them into categories. So the hottest red, darkest red is extreme, severe, et cetera. So they're showing that globally. And if you go on that page, it's phenomenal. You can zoom in, you can make your own maps, you can look. They have quite good resolution for areas. So it's a really great resource if you're interested in ocean temperatures as it relates to the work you're doing. So that's all I have for you today, and happy to take any question from the commissioners. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Hoffman. All right, any questions from any of the commissioners regarding the presentation? Oh, yep, Commissioner Stedman.
Excuse me. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Of course.
Where are you? Where's your office at?
Where's my office at? I am located at the UC Santa Barbara campus, and I'm in the Marine Science Research Building right on campus. And you're invited to come visit anytime because we've got experiments ongoing. We can show you everything.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would like to do that.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, thanks again for the presentation. Can we go back to maybe like a fifth or so? Can we go back? There's a slide that showed there, go forward. Yeah, this one's, go back. Sorry.
Which one?
There's a temperature one. Right here.
What? Right
That
there.
one's good.
Yeah.
So just looking at the coast,
Yes.
what's the explanation for why that's blue when everything else around it is all
Yeah. So
red?
in that figure, there's a little punch out that the dash lines. There was another figure that goes with it that shows zooming in. But that was the data that was coming in August. where we had this huge mass of warm water. And then what can happen, these warm water masses move onto the coast. And that's the part that's really hard to predict. And upwelling, of course, and winds can push it back out. But that warm water mass in August was setting up, and then in September, it came on shore and created all that weird humid weather for us. That was last year. And that's satellite imagery synthesized together and colorized so you can see the different temperatures. So if I don't have, I should have brought one for March. I don't think I had a really good one, but it's just like a massive red area right now. It's not great.
But then like specifically
Yeah.
on the coast, I'm seeing it as being colder, right?
Yeah, so that can happen.
Yeah.
So there can be upwelling, and the water doesn't always, the warm water doesn't always hit the coast, so it can move back and forth. And that's the unpredictable part, that you'll have warm water off the coast already, and it'll move on shore into the kelp forest, into shallow water. And so then that's when you have the impacts. And so that's why, we'll have something last for a week or 2 weeks, and then it recedes. And what we've learned is that when the warm water starts to come on shore, usually increases about a degree or two every day, so that you go from like 14 to 20 over a 3 or 4 day period. It'll stay warm for a while, and then it'll recede a little bit quicker, but that water keeps moving back and forth off the coast. And that's the unpredictable part about, what could we tell our sea urchin divers, or, people that were interested in what was going to happen with their dive trip. Well, we don't know. And there are people that are really interested in making these predictions, that if we know the winds and the oceanography, we might be able to do that. And in fact, NOAA, they have a lab in Boulder, the physical lab, and they're working on that and have done a really great job. So I think there's some really important science that can come to the table to help communities understand their vulnerability. And, you don't want to make too big of a deal of this, but one of the things that I think, as a global change biologist, about these phenomena is that when bad things happen like this in the environment, the effects are local, focal, and intense. So let's say an oyster operation in Tillamook, Oregon gets taken out. Well, sorry, Tillamook, that's bad for you guys, but oysters are coming from the Atlantic. So we'll probably still have oysters, but that local community just really got hurt. And so what we want to do is to, as a science community, especially the data science and the oceanographers, is to really understand where our vulnerabilities are and to have forecasting capacity. But I'm more of a biologist, but I'm always talking to the physical scientists because they help me do the experiments so we can understand what's going on with biology. But that's a good catch.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you bet.
Commissioner Sedman.
Yes, thank you once again.
Yeah.
So it looks like what you showed us was largely a regression analysis, right? I mean, what are your data sources? Is this all from satellite data or actual ambient collection of temperatures?
Yeah. So what we're looking at here, what we were looking at there is all cumulative satellite data that's analyzed and collapsed into a color graph. Try to find that one with the line. Go forward, forward, forward. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Where is it? There it is. So that is raw data. That we have loggers that are out in the water. They're made by a company called Hobo Onset. And you can program them to record every few minutes. Right here, this is probably every 30 minutes. So that's raw data. And then we just take the raw data and create a time series analysis showing that information. One can then use programs to then look at your temperature data and graph how many and determine how many true marine heat wave events you had, how many events that are 5 days or more. So here, I kind of prefer to show the raw data sometimes, because the marine heat wave is neat because people around the world can compare. but it kind of washes out some of the information a little bit, and so it's better to see the raw data. So there's no analysis, it's just presentation of what the temperature was.
Right.
Yeah,
And so it looks like in one of these charts, everything looked normal
yeah,
until around 2018, or, the blob started getting characterized. Right, 2014.
yep, so, yep,
So my question is, and you answered part of it when you came back up to the microphone about the ability to predict, right? It doesn't sound like you're in that business, though.
no, not really. I know people that are, and, but I think it's worth mentioning because it's a very important component for coastal communities. And that is where the blob tracker is really great, because they have forecasting capacities, they have models that, and it's just got to be, you've got winds and currents and trying to predict what's going on, and there's interaction with the atmosphere. So it's a really important component of what's going on. I'm more in the business of documenting it and then taking that information and trying to study the biology in the lab. But this figure, you're right, sir, in 2014 and 2016, we had this big swack of warm water, and it relaxed in 2019. And I think everybody thought it was over, but then 2018 was a very demonstrative year, all of a sudden like, oh, okay, well, that happened again. And so by 2020, I was somewhat convinced that this was a new pattern that we were going to continue to see, and so far we have. Nothing yet has been as dramatic as the blob years. That was an extreme event. I think people consider it to be one of the longest and most intense events of its kind. So, but I encourage you to look at the blob tracker, the NOAA site, because that's where the prediction information is found.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Nelson?
I'm curious, how is this information disseminated? Is it disseminated by NOAA to local radio stations?
Yeah.
And, I mean,
I
how do
wish.
you know what's out there?
I wish I was on a local radio station. No. So the way these data are disseminated, firstly, NOAA has numerous data sites that you can go to. So the blob tracker that I showed you, you can go to Coral Reef Watch, where they're collapsing and sharing. And the capacity to, it's really wonderful to, like I have students who can do this. You can go in and create your own graphs by accessing their data. The technology and the computing speed is really good. So one of the things that, we could probably do a little bit better is bringing some of this information to the local community.
Yeah, because the point is,
yeah.
obviously your analysis and evaluation, you know the circumstances or the characteristics of the blob.
Yep.
And you obviously, now that you've got all these trackers around,
Yep.
you know when you're getting closer to
Yeah.
those set of circumstances.
Exactly. And so the other thing we have, is when you're funded by the National Science Foundation, they require that all your data is publicly available.
Yeah.
So, we have information to share, which is part of the reason that I'm here.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to find the connectivity in
Yeah.
terms of, where am I going to go with my,
Right.
marine heat wave data? But I think it's something to think about, because it's certainly something that we could share with the fishing community. And to be honest, there are lots of other ways that this is exchanged. So the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, CDFW, obviously has biologists that are thinking about this and sharing the information. NOAA has the National Marine Sanctuaries that are actively distributing and sharing this kind of information. But I think you've highlighted that, we're not necessarily, as a scientific community, really raising it up to make it very accessible
Right.
to the public.
Which it needs to be.
I know, I know.
Thank
Well,
you.
thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's good.
Commissioner McCray?
Dr. Hoffman, thank you very much for making the time to come out here and speak to us. It's really an honor to have you here.
Hey, my pleasure.
I have a question. The temperature loggers, what's the deepest ones that you have that get serviced?
The deepest ones that we have, let's see. probably down to about 20 some odd, 30 meters at one of our deeper sites.
Like 100 feet?
Nah. It's like within, yeah,
Yeah.
probably. You know, these are serviced by divers, right, on
Oh, okay.
scuba. And so these particular sensors are swapped out with small boat trips. So we don't have anything that's really, really deep.
Oh, very good. I am a sea surface temperature watching geek. And so I typically look at a site called World View Earth Data from
Yep.
NASA. There's a lot of layers you can pull up, so it's a little bit more complicated to use. But the sea surface temperature anomaly that this year is the greatest I have ever seen it in my entire life, and it's been a long time being a temperature geek.
Yeah,
In Fahrenheit, it's over 10 degrees different from what's normal,
yeah.
and I think during the blob, the most I saw was about 7.
Yeah, I didn't want to put a pin in stuff too much yet right now, but it's early days, but there are oceanographers out there who are saying things like the blob is black, you know, like this is the extreme anomalous behavior of surface waters right now is greater than anything we've seen.
And it looks like it kind of floats around, so we get wind, the upwelling comes, it pushes offshore, and then
Yep.
the wind dies and it floats back in. And to me, the quicker it floats back in, the deeper that warm water actually is.
Exactly. So the vertical dynamics, not my expertise, but it's almost like if you think about the doldrums, you know, there's just no wind and the water's sitting there. There's an opportunity for that warm water to penetrate more deeply. And I think there's some recent research that's been showing that. It's pretty clear. And where I care about it is that where it meets the ecology and the biology. So, you know, if we have important larvae that are out in the water column or plankton that are experiencing these plumes of really warm water, they're all cold-blooded things, and they're, you know, temperature is going to influence their metabolism. And so that's something that, you know, we really like to pay attention to. But yeah, it's going to get interesting. You know, the winds will change this, but I think the summer could be quite interesting going forward. So the marine heat wave season is getting off to an early start. Let's put it that way. But thanks for sharing that. That's great. For reading that into the record, yeah.
Any other questions from the commission? Mr. Lopez, any public comment online?
Chair Stanwyck, there are no hands raised or speaker slips submitted for this item.
Thank you. All right, well, we appreciate the time and the presentation, Ms. Hoffman. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks. Okay. We're moving to item number 3 of new business, the lottery drawing for the 30-foot designated commercial fishing slip permit. Mr. Lopez, can you please read the recommendation for us?
Yes, this is item 3, recommendation that Harbor Commission via the chair conduct a lottery drawing to rank individuals who applied for one available 30-foot designated commercial fishing slip permit in Santa Barbara Harbor.
Thank you. All right, turn it over to the waterfront.
Yeah, good evening, Chair Stanwyck, Harbor Commissioners, members of the public. I am Harbor Operations Manager Nathan Aldridge, and this evening I'll be presenting our commercial fishing slip lottery. So this evening's lottery will be held for a 30-foot designated commercial fishing slip. As there are no designated commercial fishermen on our current wait list, this is a separate commercial fishing lottery per Santa Barbara Municipal Code policy. And for some background, for our last meeting, applications were accepted during a 2-week period from March 19th through April 2nd. Details for this were publicly posted in the Waterfront's administrative office, in 132 Harbor Way, on Marina Gates, and throughout the Harbor District, and online at the Waterfront Department's official city website. And additionally, it was mentioned and presented at last month's Harbor Commission meeting. A total of 7 lottery applications were received during the application window, and tonight the Harbor Commission Chair will draw 3 names from the 7 applicants. Mr. Lopez, in front of you, has entered all of the applicants' names that are up on your screen in our Tumblr. And at this point, if I can have Chair Stanwyck please come down.
Where's the drum roll, man? Music or something.
Yeah. And Chair Stanwyck, what I'm going to have you do is if you can please spin the tumbler and draw one card and then read the name out in front of the commission.
All right, first name is Randy Hughes.
All right, I'll have you hold 1 second. What I'm going to do is write the names down here. All right, Chair Stanwyck, can you please draw another name?
Second name is Brady Phillips.
And our last name of the evening?
Third name is Matthew Diamond.
All right, super. Thank you so much, Mr. Lopez and Chair Stanwyck. And so publicly for the lottery results, position 1, Randy Hughes. Number 2, Brady Phillips. And number 3 is Matthew Diamond. And following this meeting, staff will send letters to this group of applicants. The first ranked applicant will receive an offer letter. The second and third ranked applicants will receive a letter explaining their standby positions. And the remaining applicants will be notified that their names were not drawn. The top-ranked individual will have 30 days to accept the offer. And as a reminder, this designated commercial fishing slip is subject to all provisions of our commercial fishing policy, and all qualifications must be met. If the first-ranked applicant fails to qualify or declines the offers within this 30-day period, the offer will be withdrawn and extended to the second or the third-ranked applicant until the slip has been properly assigned. All right, thank you so much, Chair Stanwyck and Commissioners. And with that, I will turn it back over to you and the Commission.
Great, thank you, Mr. Aldridge. Yeah, just a reminder that this was one of the goals that we had, I think, in the last 2 years was more commercial fishing slips. So glad we're able to make this possible, and it looks like we have 3 good applicants. With that, I don't believe that there's anything else to be done for there. Any other questions from the Commission on that? Commissioner Nelson.
My only question is, did we ask of the applicants and those that applied to see whether or not they met, for example, the basic requirements to hold a designated commercial fishing slip? Do we know if these 3 individuals, in fact, can satisfy the requirements by virtue of their application?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Nelson, Chair Stanwyck. Excellent question. All of the applicants received an application that detailed the requirements and were asked when they turned their application in if they would satisfy them, and they had, for example, landings, license, commercial fishing vessel that was appropriately sized for that slip, and all of them did satisfy those requirements.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, well, that concludes item number 3. We can move on to item number 4, the review of waterfront parking operations and policies. Mr. Lopez, can you please read the recommendation for item number 4?
Yes, this is item 4, recommendation that Harbor Commission receive a presentation on the Waterfront Department's parking operations and policies, discuss and provide feedback to staff to help guide future projects and policy changes.
Great, thank you. And also, too, during our January agenda setting meeting, when we were voting on the larger policy efforts for 2026, strategic planning was number 1. This was the number 2 item that was selected. So kudos to the Waterfront for providing us with this information. And thank you for the presentation today.
Good evening, Chair Stanwyck, Commissioners, members of the public. My name is Cesar Barrios. I'm the Waterfront Business Manager. And today, myself and Ms. Tellis, who is our Waterfront Parking Supervisor, will provide a brief presentation on waterfront parking operations. So to begin, our goal is to present on our parking operations and policies, and then at the end of the presentation, have the Commission provide any input to guide future projects and policies, or any comments or questions you may have about the operation. It's been quite some time since we haven't been to the Commission on this topic, so this is a great opportunity to discuss. So to begin, for some background, in the early 1980s, the city council implemented a paid parking program along the waterfront area, following a comprehensive review process involving an environmental impact report, input from the Harbor Commission and the Planning Commission. Ultimately, with the city council approval, the California Coastal Commission issue a permit to implement this program along the beaches, which basically started charging for parking. Since its formation, the Waterfront Department's Parking Services Division has played a vital role in generating revenue for the department, directly supporting the department's ongoing maintenance operations, projects, maintaining city facilities, and most significantly, assisting the many thousands or millions of visitors, depending on what scale you look at this, that visit the Santa Barbara Harbor, Stearns Wharf, and along all the beaches from Ledbetter to East Beach. And here I have a photo that was color, and I put here in circa 1940s, could be late 40s, likely early 50s by looking at the vehicles. I was trying to find the late, but it's very interesting because we have the two monuments right there that gives you a perspective of how it used to look like. And then the building that you see on the upper right, that's the naval facility that now is the Waterfront Center building. So let me walk you through the Waterfront Department's Parking Services Division. So we operate 8 parking lots, offering a total of 2,580 paid parking spaces. 2 of our facilities, Stearns Wharf and the Harbor main parking lot, are staffed daily. The Harbor is open 24/7, and the Wharf is open daily from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And these 2 facilities offer a point-of-sale system, what you're used to seeing downtown parking, for example, with gates, kiosks, and an individual working the booth attending to our customers. The other 6 parking lots use the pay-by-plate system recently implemented, which is a self-pay process in which visitors park their vehicles and then they walk up to a pay station, enter their license plate number. For many years, they had to print a receipt and then place that on the dashboard. That's no longer required. Ms. Stellas will give us more detail on that in a few minutes. And then through this process, we have parking monitors who enforce and check the parking lots for payment compliance. In addition, there are free parking areas along Cabrillo Boulevard between Shoreline Drive and East Cabrillo Boulevard, which includes Shoreline Park up above Ledbetter, which is not part of the purview of the Waterfront Department, which is Parks and Recreations, but it's close to the coastal area, so I'd like to include that within this presentation. They have about 90 free all-day parking spaces, and then between Loma Alta and the volleyball course at East Beach, we have approximately 350 free spaces that vary between 75 minutes and 90 minutes free. And one of the most recent projects was the reverse parking on the right across between Niños Drive and Cabrillo Boulevard by the volleyball courts. Here's a map illustrating the Waterfront parking lots, and the legend on the lower left gives you an idea of what lots were, which lots were which. And this map is available in the parking website for anyone that would like to go in there and look at this in more detail. And then I have the actual 2 facilities to give you a visual of how these operations look like. So on the left, we have the self-pay system of 6 parking lots. They're open between, we charge parking between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. However, you can be in the parking lot from 6 a.m. to 2 in the morning. On the right, you have the Harbor main parking lot. That's the kiosk. It's been there for many years, and it's staffed 24/7, and it provides a vital function to the harbor, processing boat trailers, as you can see in this photo, and also it functions kind of as a hub for information. Not as much over the last decade with with technology and Google, but for many, many years, that kiosk was basically an information center for a lot of the visitors to the harbor. So the parking division is responsible for overseeing all aspects of the waterfront department's parking operations. This includes managing the collection and processing of parking fees, as well as preparing the budget and documentation as part of the financial reporting process. So all of our treasury reports, everything's handled in-house that we provide to the finance department on a daily basis, actually. Additionally, the parking division plays a key role in coordinating logistics and parking resources for major community events, most notably the 4th of July celebration on West Beach, the Harbor and Seafood Festival, and the Parade of Lights, where our parking staff, it's boots on the ground, directing traffic, not just in the parking lots, but in the intersections by Loma Alta, base of the wharf, and assistant PD with a lot of their needs in regards to traffic, since we're very familiar with the area and the operation. Furthermore, we provide essential support to maintenance projects that may require access to resources. You can see as an example by the Chase Point Park parking lot, where currently is a large creeks project, and parking works closely with project planners to provide parking and accessibility to the working areas. And also they play a significant role in providing reservations for weddings, sporting events, working closely with the Parks and Recreations Department. We manage the parking lots. Parks and Rec manages the facilities, the beaches, many of the buildings you see along the waterfront, Cabrillo Bathhouse, Casa Las Palmas, and such. So we have, I would say, year-round, our events on the weekends, and our staff works closely providing accessibility and parking. So the parking division is overseen by a dedicated team, with Ms. Tellis being here, 3 full-time staff, the parking supervisor, and 2 parking coordinators who ensure and provide excellent service 7 days a week. We do have the kiosks. Harbor Kiosk is open 24/7, but our office hours primarily are 8 to 5, with staff being present until 10 p.m. to handle wharf activities. In addition to that, we have 2 full staff members, an office specialist and an administrative specialist in the back office, and they are the 2 people who handle the finances, all the day-to-day reports. They create treasury receipts, they audit our functions to ensure that everything's in line, all of our receipts from either the self-pay stations or the ski data equipment, which is the point-of-sale system we use, are in line. And then we are supported by a core staff of about 30 hourly employees, and they work out in the field, and this includes the parking leads who oversee kiosk operations. They're the ones that give the breaks to the employees working the kiosks. They're overseeing the parking lots. They're the eyes and ears of the department in the parking lots. They're the ones you usually see driving in the white trucks, collecting cones, and they're always busy and actively doing something. Then we have our parking monitors, and they are the individuals who do the enforcement. So they either on foot or via vehicle, they ensure that our pay lots, or the rules of our pay lots, are being followed, and they have authority to issue parking fee violations for non-payment. And then we have a number of folks that work in the kiosks, about 20, I'll say about 20 or so currently. It varies depending on the time of the year. In the summer, those numbers increase. Now we're getting to that point, so Ms. Tellis is actively filling up her team to kick off the summer season. Usually it kicks off in late May. In regards to the operating budget and financial impacts, so parking services, we account for about 24% of the waterfront revenues. So that's about $5 million a year. But the operating expense is about 1.5. So very effective in generating income and keeping those costs at a low level. So the Waterfront Department offers two types of annual parking permits. The most widely used option is the general permit, which is the currently available to anybody can purchase a permit. They're currently $145 per calendar year. As of this year, they're known as the red permit. This permit provides exemptions from the hourly parking fees in all waterfront public lots, and, with the exception of Stearns Wharf. We don't have any public permits for the wharf. Permit holders are required to comply with all the regulations. So the only benefit to that permit is that you don't have to pay for parking, which is very economical. I believe it's about 34 cents a day if you break it down for 365 days. And then we have the slip permittee parking permit, same cost, about $145 a year. This one is only available to slip permittees. You can get one per slip. And the difference between the general and the slip permittee permit is that the slip permittee allows the vehicle or the permittee to keep their vehicle in the parking lot for up to 30 consecutive days, in the harbor parking lot for 30 consecutive days. Then on average, we sell about 6,000 permits. There's been a very steady number over a decade or so. We fluctuate between 5,500 to 6,000, depending on a lot of times the function of the weather. I mean, when we have very sunny days, folks get the bug to come in and get a permit in January or even before the summer begins. Besides the folks that buy a permit at the beginning of the year because they need it for either work or they're consistent visitors to the waterfront. It's a very economical option to park along all the waterfront lots. So as far as parking policy is concerned, the most significant and latest change in the policy took place in 2019, where the Waterfront Department initiated a significant policy change to address a growing problem with oversized vehicles and the misuse of waterfront parking permits, primarily in the Harbor Main parking lot. Many of you, if many of you were around at that time, you may recall seeing lots of vehicles being stored in the parking lot, something like this. That was a daily occurrence. A lot of those vehicles did not move. So any time of the day or the year you show up and you'll see that or even more vehicles. So after we made the change, this is current. These photos are from this week, but the policy change took effect in January 1st of 2020, and that's how the parking lot looked that day, and it's been maintained in that same way. So it was very effective. It created parking. We received a lot of good feedback from the community, a lot of slip permittees, especially on those busy days. On the weekdays when it's not busy, I don't mind on a site, but on those weekends when somebody's coming in trying to get to Marina 2 and unload groceries from their vehicle and there's nowhere to park, that's when it becomes an issue. Another example, that used to be called Van Row. It looked like that for years. This is how it looks now. And again, that was all within the legal, the allowed policy, which allowed the blue stickers, the blue permits or slip permittee permits to park for 365 days without having to move as long as the vehicle was registered. So unfortunately, it led to a lot of misuse. And now I pass it on to Ms. Tellis.
All right, so this past January, the parking division implemented a pay-by-plate parking system, which replaced the existing pay and display system. This upgrade removed the need for customers to print and display their paper receipts and created a more modern and efficient parking experience for the customer. As a result of our partnership with the police department, the parking division was able to equip an enforcement vehicle with license plate readers, which have allowed for significant staff improvements. The LPR vehicle allows our enforcement team to scan plates quickly and accurately, which has reduced manual checks and created increase in our coverage. It has also helped to reduce errors in the field and improve consistency. Not only has this transition improved the customer experience, but it's really opened the door for future technology upgrades. Then on our next slide here. So this is the LPR vehicle. You can see we have 2 LPR readers on top of the vehicle there. Then we also have an image here of the sign that is also displayed in our self-pay parking lots, all throughout the self-pay parking lots, notifying customers to capture their license plate before they approach the pay station. And our next slide here. All right, the parking division is currently working on 2 major projects. First, by this summer, we plan to introduce the mobile parking payment options. So customers will be able to pay for parking directly from their cell phones, either through an app or an online platform, whichever they prefer. These options will allow users to receive reminders before their session expires and extend their parking sessions remotely, adding flexibility and convenience across all of the self-pay parking lots. Our second big project will be to prepare to automate the Los Baños exit in the harbor parking lot. Right now, this exit only operates during limited hours on the weekends and during busy events. Automation would allow this exit to operate 24/7, which will significantly improve the circulation in the lot for both residents and visitors. But in order to successfully automate this exit, there are several upgrades that are required. So firstly, we must install an exit column that's capable of handling credit card payments, as well as an intercom system to support customer assistance upon exit. Additionally, we will need to provide a secondary credential option for annual permit holders who might not have a front license plate. Something like a windshield tag would be the direction we're going. And lastly, we would need to ensure that boat trailer fees are collected before vehicles approach the exit. All of these improvements will ensure that vehicles can exit smoothly and that staff can still provide customer assistance. All right, on our next slide. So to simplify the experience for vehicles exiting, we need to improve the current boat trailer parking system. So by moving the trailer stalls that are in the launch ramp to a pay-by-space system, users will have several ways to pay, either through the mobile app options that will be available soon in all the self-pay lots, or at a nearby pay station. And again, with those mobile pay options, they will be able to extend their parking sessions remotely if they happen to be on the water or away. It does give them that flexibility to change their plans. And ultimately, the goal is to create smoother traffic flow in the harbor, and we feel that these updates will accomplish that. So on our next slide here, you can see this is our current state of the launch ramp, which we're all familiar with. And our next rendering here is just a rough idea of what a pay-by-space system might look like. So you can see the stall is numbered and there's a pay station close by. We will also have signs throughout the parking lot, which will encourage users to pay through the mobile app options as well. So everyone's aware of the different solutions that are available. All right, and that is all that I have for you tonight. Thank you for your time. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Tellis and Mr. Barrios. Appreciate it. Any questions from the commission on this? Commissioner Nelson.
I'm curious, there's a downtown parking administration with its own commissions and all of that. How are we different? Is it because we are an enterprise operation and they're not, or what? because later in the discussion, we get into the budget, I'm going to ask, are our rates commensurate with theirs or higher or lower? So are they operating on a whole different set of rules and authority than we are?
Well, Commissioner Nelson, Chair Stanwyck, historically, they've operated in a similar manner as we have. Actually, we have for many years kind of followed what they've done, follow their model. Currently, they have the ski data pay system, which is the LPR cameras, the gates, and the columns that you see downtown parking. So at one point, in 2003, we switched a pay, like a point of sale system, like downtown parking, to a self-pay system with 6 over parking lots. So that kind of changed kind of the process of how we operate our lots, depending on, varying on demands. I mean, downtown parking, there are different departments. They used to be out of the public works. Now this recently, they're under the purview of the state administrator's office. So their clients, their patrons are slightly different than ours. Generally speaking, the downtown has different demands, and on foggy days when it was really slow at the waterfront, downtown would be busy. So then they would have a lot of activity. They have a significant inventory of parking spaces. So as far as operation, yeah, we're different departments. We're under the city of Santa Barbara, but we operate differently. We do collaborate even through this process. They are looking at implementing a self-pay system. I believe they've just started doing one parking lot, but we're working together to collaborate on projects and technology. The idea is to at one point get to a level where both waterfront and downtown, or even airport, which is part of the city, have a similar system, so it's easier for visitors. So when they go downtown and then they go to the waterfront, there's no significant. They don't have to relearn a new system.
Okay. Thanks.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. One thing I've always noticed every time I've ever checked out of the kiosk is the friendliness of the staff in the kiosk. I mean, if I'm feeling down one day, I'll just go pay for parking and life will be better. What training do you all, I'm just curious, is there a particular training that you do? How do you keep them so happy?
It's all Nicole.
Is that the trick?
Well, Chair Stanwyck, Commissioner Anderson, thank you. I would say there's definitely a culture within waterfront parking of making sure that we are personable, and we're there, like Caesar had mentioned earlier in the presentation. It's really, especially at the harbor kiosk, the idea is to be almost like a information desk, right? So to know the great restaurants and where the closest restrooms are and that sort of thing is definitely something that's covered in training. But there's definitely an expectation that our staff are personable and do represent the city well.
Yeah, all my experiences have always been positive with them, so thank you for your work on that. And then another question, I know we've talked about this before throughout the years when I was in the budget committee, is demand pricing for parking. And I forget, are we hesitant to do it to encourage equal access for everyone to get the, when you think about July 4th, we know the demand is through the roof for the spots. Is that something that we're still tossing around consideration in terms of additional revenue generators, or is it something that we're shying away from?
Yeah, Commissioner Anderson, we've talked about it internally a number of times. There's pros and cons. There's some frustration there with people who are used to paying a price. There's some confusion. We haven't necessarily needed to do that just yet. I'm not saying it's out of the question, but it's something that we could do if we wanted to move that way. But sometimes you get maybe more pushback than it's worth with that sort of thing if the community and the users are either confused or frustrated or don't necessarily understand what it is. So we've just been a little bit hesitant to dive into it, but definitely an option.
Okay. Any other questions, Commission? One question, or actually one comment I have is just I'm glad that we're doing the 24/7 access from the Los Baños exit, and that makes a lot of sense. So happy that's moving forward. I think that was good use of resources. One of the questions I also had was regarding the parallel parking in front of the Coast Guard and the raised walkway, just because we had talked about it before in the commission. Is there any update on the development of that, or when that parking situation is going to be initiated?
Yeah, that project is large enough to trigger a permit, obviously. So we're going through the permitting process right now. We're trying to deal with some stormwater mitigation requirements that come with doing a project of that scale. It's still planned. We still have budget for it. And so once we can get through the permitting process, we still fully intend on doing that project.
Great, thanks. Also, too, one other question regarding electric vehicles. I'm just kind of curious if there's going to be more kiosks for those, or where or when those are going to be initiated in the parking lot. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, Chair Stanwyck, yes, those are actively in discussion right now. We're working on some logistics around those, but sustainability and resilience has been very active with moving that initiative forward.
Sounds great. Thanks. Okay, any other questions from the commission? Mr. Lopez, any public comment online?
Chair Stanwyck, there are no hands raised or speaker slips submitted.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Tellis and Mr. Barrios. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Okay, we can move on to item number 5 of new business, the fiscal year 2027 waterfront budget recommendations, excluding slip-related fees. Mr. Lopez, can you please read your recommendation for that?
Yes, this is item 5, recommendation the Harbor Commission receive a presentation on the Waterfront Department's proposed fiscal year 2027 budget submittal, excluding discussion on slip-related fees. Discuss and forward recommendation to City Council for approval of the Waterfront Department's proposed fiscal year 2027 budget.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to the waterfront.
Chair Stanwyck, Commissioners, members of the public, for my next presentation, I bring to you our fiscal year 27 budget. And this is our agenda for today for this presentation. First, we'll go over the budget timeline, key messages, revenues, expenses, fee adjustments, and capital programs. Right, to provide a general background, the city operates on a July 1st through June 30th fiscal year. Currently, we are working through our mid-budget cycle for fiscal year 27. Last year, we presented our 2-year budget for fiscal year 26 and 27 this very time of the year. And now we're primarily bringing back the budget to you with an overview of our adjustments for fiscal year 27 from the budget we proposed back in 2025. It's worth noting that a significant amount of time and work goes into this process, in which, as you can see in this timeline, and these are the main landmarks through the process. We started this back in November when we have a kickoff meeting with our budget, with our finance department, citywide, and we begin to develop the budget with staff, with proposals, start thinking about fees, and we also engage the Harbor Commission's budget work group for feedback, and that a meeting we had on February 2nd. And on March 18th, we presented the draft budget, what you're seeing today, to the city administrator and the finance department for their feedback. And then that brings us to today. It's highlighted on the table. And from here, we go to City Council on Tuesday for the budget introduction. So the citywide budget will be introduced by the Finance Department at the Tuesday 2 o'clock meeting here in these chambers. Then on May 5th, the Finance Department will discuss fee adjustments with the Finance Committee. That's primarily a meeting to go over all the fees for the city, including waterfronts, that are being adjusted. During the mid-cycle, generally, we don't do significant changes to the fee structure. We just do adjustments based on the requirements to balance the budget. Then from there, we get the feedback on any changes from the Finance Committee. The budget, again, is presented to the City Council on May 19th for recommendation for approval. Then on June 9th, the City Council will again convene to deliberate on the budget, and for a final citywide budget adoption taking place on June 16th. And then the fiscal year 27 budget takes effect on July 1st of this year. Okay, on to for key messages. So I'd like to highlight the significant future expenditure increases, such as insurance. The premiums upwards to $1 million over 3 years. Most recently, this past July 1st of 2025, the insurance deductible for Stearns Wharf rose up to $3 million. In 2023, it was $250,000, to give you some perspective. Also, tenant revenues have declined, a function of just the business climate, the economy, but also we have some vacant buildings we haven't had in quite some time, in decades actually. So as you've been well aware, as part of this process, I'm bringing to you RFPs and discussions on new tenants filling the two upstairs where the former restaurant at Anchor Rose used to be located. So yeah, we're projecting about a $500,000 impact due to that. I mean, the new businesses the downstairs Corazon, upstairs the tavern, it will take months to get going. So due to improvements to the space, since they are looking at renovating and making the place look a whole different business. For large future projects, including the sea level rise adaptation plan and replacement of marinas 2, 3, and 4, those are going to be significant capital projects, and those costs are still to be determined. Likely we'll be relying on some of our reserves to ensure we can move those projects forward. As far as budget balancing strategies, this year we're relying on slip fee increases and some miscellaneous fee adjustments to balance the operating budget, in addition to using about $1.7 million in capital reserves to perform the scheduled capital projects. And that's a standard process for us. We have reserves primarily for capital projects. So in this case, we're equating the surplus that we're projecting with the planned cost of capital projects for fiscal year 27. But we'll continue to make great effort to keep fees affordable and avoid having to increase them to have any impacts to our stakeholders. So here you have a high-level overview of our revenues and expenditures for fiscal year 27. On the left, you can see our budgeted revenues showing our main sources of revenue: marina management, parking services, and property management. 3 main sources of revenue for the Waterfront Department. With a smaller piece of the pie, we have financial management revenues, which are a function of the interest rates and market trends. And then on the right, we have the graph illustrating expenditures, including capital projects at 9%, which is the majority is funded by our capital reserves. Salaries and benefits make a big part of our spending, which is tied to long-term negotiations between bargaining units and the city. Then we have about 46 full-time employees whose majority belong to the general unit, which they've been actively negotiating their salaries over the last 5 years. Then, as part of this pie, we have the allocated costs that represent funds that we pay to other city departments for their services, as well as property, which is $1.5 million, and liability insurance, about $500,000, which also we have overhead allocations of about $1.2 million. Includes IT services, phone service, vehicle maintenance, etc., under the allocated cost section. Then to supplies and services, this item we have more direct control over. These are basically our everyday spending. Includes office supplies, equipment repair and maintenance, electricity, and other utility charges. Includes janitorial costs and professional service contracts, which have continued to increase over the years as well. Then the debt service is what we pay for loans, which is the Marina One project from many years back, and then the Stearns Wharf fire repairs from the early thousands. On proposed revenues, this table shows the originally proposed base budget for fiscal year 27, and then on the right column, you'll see the revised numbers. So for property management, the department projects a decrease in revenue of 11%. That's roughly $750,000 compared to fiscal year 27 budgeted figures. And again, this is primarily due to the two food service tenants who may take several months to get up and going, which we will be receiving less rent revenue during those months. Then we have some potential headwinds as well with multiple large food service and retail tenants that are dealing with adverse economic trends. We're a function of the weather at the waterfront. This past summer, it was successful, but then talking to our tenants, we're seeing going over figures, and we're being cautious in our planning. In financial management, revenues are relatively small. We experienced a significant increase in fiscal year 26, but fiscal year 27 will remain level compared to the base budget proposed in 2025. And primarily, these are the result of the favorable interest rates and the higher reserves balances. In regards to parking services, the revised fiscal year 27, we project an increase in parking services revenue by 2%. That's about $107,000 over fiscal year 27. For this mid-year budget cycle, the department is not proposing any hourly parking fee increases. The strong sales of annual parking permits continue to be a primary driver of parking revenues. Then on to marina management. One of the departments, which is divisions most consistent and impactful with an impactful revenue source. The marina management revenues are required to balance increasing operational costs. The department is projecting a 7% increase in revenues over the fiscal year 27 base budget, mainly due to the proposed monthly slip fee increases, which, as mentioned, they're necessary to balance the budget. No fee increases are proposed for specific liveaboard permits. Something that's come up in previous years, so there's no plan to increase anything related to liveaboards aside from the slip fees that apply to all slip permittees. And overall, I mean, we've every year we do a marina management questionnaire that we send out to various marinas throughout California, and we're still we're below average on what the slip fees are with for harbors and marinas in California, from Morro Bay all the way down to San Diego. Okay, next, let's talk about expenditures. So based on the base budget, we anticipate a 1% increase, about $123,000 in department expenditures. Comparing the fiscal year 27 base budget to the 27 revised, salaries show a minimal decrease of about $27,000. Benefits also remain steady with only a minor increase. Our allocated costs display no variance with a slight decrease of over $1,000 compared to fiscal year 27 base budget. While supplies and services is relatively unchanged, increasing only by just about $1,600 Most significantly, special projects are projected to rise by 55%. That's about $120,000 compared to the base budget we proposed to you back in 2025. And this is primarily due to nearly $80,000 increase in the lifeguard program that we pay to Parks and Recreations. So we pay a part of the program as agreements that we have with the various departments as allocated costs. And this is an increase that it's part of an initiative to balance the general fund, which generally falls with enterprises. Also, this category includes $50,000 increased for an allocation to economic development efforts. So enterprise funds are being asked to collaborate and provide $50,000. That includes the waterfront as well as the airport. And increases, we're seeing increases in Parks and Recreation's landscape allocations. So we pay the Parks and Recreations Department an allocated cost to maintain all the areas of the waterfront along Cabrillo, the harbor, and we have one employee it's a Parks and Recreations employee that's dedicated specifically to the waterfront department. For non-capital equipment, as you can see, a variance of 17%. It's a nominal number. It's about $20,000, and this is just savings since Harbor Patrol, with the recent change from peace officers to harbor policemen, they don't require to purchase tactical gear or firearms. So there's a little bit of savings on that category. All right, so moving on to fee adjustments for fiscal year 27. So here you have the permits and miscellaneous fees adjustments for from the fiscal year 26 budget, which does not include anything related to slip fees. So we're proposing to increase the parking violation notice from $30 to $60, which is in line to what these type of violations cost through the industry, and also to cover the cost of administrative costs of processing these citations. These are the fees that you pay, or the fees generated through a parking violation in a self-pay lot if you don't pay at the machine or have a parking permit. This will likely generate about $100,000. And also this equates to the proposal to remove the parking daily max fee, which is at the bottom, which is projected to increase revenues by around $50,000. So removing the parking daily max fee is a function of having to increase the citation, because the cost for an all day of parking in a self-pay lot will be $49 a day if you're paying for 14 hours, which is the time of the day that we operate. So we have to match that cost to match the citation or the fee violation. We're also making some minor adjustments to the film and photo shoot permits, primarily to be in line with the Parks and Recreation's fee schedule. So they're the ones that issue these permits. So we had to make an adjustment, very minor, to match what they charge when someone is doing a photo shoot, shooting a movie, something like that along the waterfront, which is very common. We get a lot of commercials, catalogs, and occasionally we have some film. Then we're proposing to increase the parking permit from $145 to $165, and the projected increase in parking revenue is roughly $100,000. And then we're adjusting the special event fee to use spaces on the waterfront. So for the 2-year budget presentation, 26 and 27, we created fees to activate areas throughout the waterfront. For example, this year we've had a craft Arts and Crafts Market on the lawn by the coral trees. That's a new fee category that now we're able to activate these areas and try to bring more people to the waterfront. So in order to do that, we have to have a fee structure, and this is what we're doing here. And since last year, we made adjustments to the fee structure to be in line with other city departments do. So if somebody goes up to a skate park uptown, they pay a similar fee as we do at the waterfront. So that was all for fees. Now on to our capital program. So the department, we fund the capital improvement program projects with surplus from our operating funds and from our capital reserves. Typically, we spend about $2 to $3 million in annual capital spending, which represents reinvesting roughly about 10% of the operating budget back into capital infrastructure. For fiscal year 27, we're budgeting $2.88 million for capital projects. And existing projects that will continue in fiscal year 27 include the waterfront parking lot improvements, something we do on a schedule to fall into this category, which includes repaving and restriping parking lots, the marina annual maintenance program, which includes replacing dock fingers, dock boxes, power sensors, and utilities in the various marinas. And then the Stearns Wharf timber pile replacement program, which also it's annual, and we address different areas of the wharf. It's like the Golden State Bridge. By the time you're done with the whole wharf, you have to start back up again on the other end. For new projects, we included here the Fisherman's Landing, which we're allocating $300,000. Waterfront utility infrastructure improvements, about $100,000. And repower and replace the harbor patrol vessels, approximately $120,000. We are pursuing grant funds that could potentially offset some of these expenditures, primarily to repower and refurbish the patrol boats. Also, we'll continue to conduct dredging operations at the wharf and interior of the harbor using funds previously set aside in the waterfront budget. This is outside of the federal funds that we receive to do the main channel. So anything outside of that main channel, the department is responsible for its costs. And that's my, let's see, my last slide. Here's the public-facing OpenGov budget page. So anyone that's interested in seeing the budget once it's fully released on Tuesday. Oh, it's today's release. So it was released today. You can, if you're watching this, you can scan the QR code, or you can go to our website. It'll give you detailed information of our budget. There are drop-down menus with every detail of how our funds are being spent. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Barrios, and thanks for showing the OpenGov budget page. I know that's great to just have some kind of transparency. I've checked it out, and it works really well. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Questions from the commission? Commissioner McRae.
Thank you for the question, Chair. I have a question with respect to the max parking fee. And just for a hypothetical, say somebody parks for 12 hours. What is the current cost, and what would be the cost after the adjustment?
Commissioner McRae, Chair Stanwyck, the max fee in a self-pay parking lot will be $46, which is $3.50 an hour. So the max will be $46, which we equated that amount to the Harbor Main parking lot as well. So they're aligned because the Harbor parking lot is open 24/7. So a patron of the Harbor parking lot will not be paying for 24 hours of parking for each individual hour. They'll have that max, which it will be $46, which is the natural maximum at a self-pay lot that's open 14 hours a day.
So, for example, that would be somewhere just shy of $40 if somebody parked for 12.
Correct.
And then what is the current rate for that?
It's right now it's $20 is the max for the day, and it's $3.50 per hour.
Okay, so for somebody who, I'm just thinking this will hit one of our tenants especially hard. Not very equitably, I don't think. I suspect that Santa Barbara Landing's clients are probably the only people who park more than, standard park 12 hours and won't have a permit on their cars already. That's going to be hard to swallow for that particular business. That's like adding an extra $20 onto their ticket price. I mean, I guess I could have two people in the car.
Is it a question or just a comment?
Yeah, I just was wondering if that was really the intent. I mean, it just seems like it's.
It's really difficult increasing fees on anything. We don't necessarily want to do it. It's a need, and so we're tasked at a time to find revenue to be sustainable and present a balanced budget. And so you try and do that in a way that impacts the most people the least. And it's almost impossible to have a fee that doesn't kind of affect people, but your comment is definitely noted, and we can discuss that, or the commission can weigh in on that.
Yeah, it was just an observation. Are there other people who standard would be coming in without a parking permit on their car and would leave their car in the parking lot for an extended period like that? What other groups are potentially looking at having to pay this increase?
I think we were looking at other coastal cities and lots. A lot of them, it's just an hourly rate, and so you can kind of make that decision as to how you want. This was a suggestion and a proposal, and so I'm long beachgoers. I mean, families, folks that are coming there from out of town that stay at the beach all day long, park their car. 4th of July, these events, those type of things. Those are scenarios where somebody may want to leave their car there the entire day. The reality is it does tie up those spaces for the entire day. And so when we have a minimum, those people are still tying those spaces up where we cannot generate revenue on them. So it really decreases the efficiencies of our lots, and oftentimes promotes people staying there longer, which makes parking lots busier. And so when you have these busy days like 4th of July, people are almost incentivized to stay there longer, as opposed to making those financial decisions to free up the parking space or not.
Yeah, I'm just noting that their trips are standard 10 hours long, plus they get there a little bit before, and it takes them a little while to load up. And that one business is really going to be hit hard by that. I think disproportionately to any other tenants, clientele in the harbor. It would be good to reach out to them. I'm pretty sure how they'll feel about it. Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to do that. With respect to the Fisherman's Landing, can you speak to whatever public outreach there's been with respect to, because it's going to overlap. It's very close to one of the two hoists that are down there. And I was just wondering how the hoist users are feeling about that, if it's not a big deal, or if we have people that are concerned, or how's that going?
Yeah, it's going well. I mean, this isn't a project that we were aiming to force. I mean, it's kind of a good add. It creates, 90% of our capital spending is on bread and butter maintenance, stuff that's breaking, falling apart, stuff we have to do. I think it's important to reinvest into the harbor as we can to kind of improve spaces and make more space, and that's definitely a space that warrants it. We've met with commercial fishermen of Santa Barbara a number of times. We are going to essentially kind of story pole it and figure out where that distance is. We can move those hoists, and so the feedback that we received from the fishermen we spoke to is that it would be a potential benefit for them. There's more viewing, more landing space, more space for Saturday market. We can utilize that space flexibly. So we haven't met any resistance at all. Not saying that there isn't resistance out there, but we haven't at this point met any resistance. Again, we're flexible on the sizing of that. You're going to spend money on a project. It's nice to sort of maximize that space, but we don't want to impact the commercial utilization. The hope would be to enhance it and give them more space as well, dockside.
Thank you for that. That's good to know. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Nelson?
Given the fact that you had a big variance in the property management category, and attributed much of that to the two new restaurants that we're all aware of, makes me wonder, and I don't know when's going to be the appropriate time to discuss this, but does that mean that our restaurant, the big restaurant on Stearns Wharf will be even, and they're not going to be part of this problem, this variance that we're dealing with? I mean, is the settlement such that we're going to break even on that?
We have settled legal process with the Harbor Restaurant. The current state is that they are to be paying rent again, and then there are terms of that settlement to repay some of the debt as well, and so that's not necessarily.
But so in terms of the budget, though, then they will continue to pay the amount that we would have anticipated when we put the budgets together.
We will be working on a short-term lease agreement with them while we negotiate a new lease in the interim.
And then secondly, I saw the $50,000. It's a small amount of money, but it's a big subject for me, is the economic development contribution that we're making, and I certainly understand it. Will we be a part of that, or is this just something that the enterprise properties or facilities like the airport and the harbor are expected to make a contribution to that from their enterprise funds? And will we be involved in how that money is spent? Because I know initially it was supposed to be a project done by the Chamber of Commerce. And then there was a decision that we would bid that out. And then I saw it again in the strategic plan, the citywide strategic plan. So I'm just trying to figure out how that's coming together, and what kind of engagement will we be allowed, or the Waterfront Department be allowed to have in the ultimate expenditure on economic development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that the city and city council has pledged a couple $100,000. Both the airport and waterfront have pledged $50,000 towards that effort. It is going to be an RFP process to go out for an economic development consultant. Could be the chamber, could be whoever throws their hat in the ring and provides the best proposal. I can give you my word that I'm going to advocate as hard as I can for our $50,000 portion to be focused on the waterfront and our needs. I think waterfront and the airport are a little bit different. We are a business enterprise at the end of the day. So I think that's very much the intent, is to kind of have a portion of that dedicated to waterfront needs, whatever that may be: marketing, branding, lease analysis, all these things that could come with economic development that would support us and our tenants. So that'll be my and Caesar's job and Harbor Commission to sort of advocate for our control of that.
Got it. Thank you. The other thing, the Fisherman's Landing, it's important that it doesn't appear to be a $300,000 expenditure for the commercial fishermen. I mean, how was that named, Fisherman's Landing? Was that just
named as any? Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Just curious.
the intent is to utilize it as a flexible space, and one of the main thoughts in our mind, and within talking to CFSB, would be to use it for an expanded commercial fishing market.
Okay.
For market space, if they so want it. The city pier gets really, really congested with activity, and so having more space that we can utilize for tables and markets and flexible viewing of commercial fishing activity. So
Great. Thank you.
I think it's a positive thing for commercial fishing.
Just curious. Thanks.
Commissioner Anderson?
Just one question for me, trying to get an overall idea of how much labor and salary it talks to operate the harbor. Of the allocated cost, what percentage of that would you say, if that was in-house, would fall under salaries? And the labor?
The lion's share of our allocated cost is insurance. So we pay into the city's self-insurance fund, we pay for property insurance and a number of other pieces of insurance. So not having the exact numbers in front of me, our allocated costs, let's say they're in the range of $3 million, the insurance portion is probably $1.5 to $2 million of that. The other million is overhead for things like the 40-plus computers that we have, all the software, IT, finance, who manages our finance and purchasing processes. A large portion of that is attorneys. And so if the question is if we had our own waterfront attorneys that we paid and had our own IT department and all that stuff, I don't think there would be any dramatic savings because we're not at the scale where we could like stand up a whole attorney department. It's nice to use that a la carte and from an allocated cost point of view.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can you please go to the Waterfront Capital Projects page, please? Yeah, right here. So just in regards to some of the public comments we had and a lot of the public interest, I noticed that one of the items on here is the Waterfront ADA restroom upgrades. Is this in line with what a lot of the, I know, previous public commenters have been talking about? Because it looks to me that this, that we have funds allocated for this exact purpose.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, we have, I want to say, a dozen public restrooms. All of them could use upgrades, and so there is like this prioritization and figuring out which ones need it most. There has been some pressure from the public for some of our like tenant-facing restrooms, the one near Brophy's, Stearns Wharf, the base of Stearns Wharf. All of these restrooms get heavily utilized, Ledbetter as well, and so there's only so much funding, and so we have to kind of work our way through and prioritize those. With respect to Ledbetter restroom, we did do paint and clean it all up. I mean, it was our intent to get in there and kind of redo that facility, get it up to ADA compliance, and then you guys were there. We kind of had that pushback, so we stood back and reprioritized those funds to other restrooms. That's not saying we can't do it, those restrooms. Another thing just to clear up for the Harbor Commission and the public, there is no plan to move that restroom to West Beach. If at any, there is no plan, no path where the 30-year adaptation plan would not recreate some better restroom that has rec facilities and showers and all that stuff at Ledbetter. That's a very, very core area. So I'm not sure where that information came up, but I'm not aware of, and I'm sure Sustainability and Resiliency is not planning to. There is no plan to remove or without replacing it with something that is better or more functional for the community in or near that space. So I just wanted to clear that up as well. But after those comments, I'm going to reach out to our facilities manager and go through our public restroom priority list and see what we can do. I'm not that clear exactly what the budget is to re-engage on that Ledbetter restroom and do all the ADA compliance. So if we can get a number there, I would love to do that project in the near future as well, if it just means bringing it up to code. It sounds easier than it is sometimes. Sometimes you just don't have the space. Sometimes you have to take out walls and move things, and because ADA code is to the inch. If the wall's in the way, you got to move it. So, but I'll re-engage on that project next week and reach out to the swimmers as well on it.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the update on that. All right, any other questions from the commission? Mr. Lopez, is there any other public comment on this online?
You have one hand raised, Harrison Hale.
Okay. Mr. Hale, yeah, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Commissioner Stanwyck and Harbor Commission. I appreciate the Commission's past willingness to consider public comment. It seems like periodically when I address the Commission with questions or concerns, you respond in a positive fashion, and I find that my comments have been taken into consideration, and you've adjusted some of the impacts, or you address those concerns by modifying some of the policies and budget items that I've commented on. So I really appreciate your responsiveness to public comment, and I also appreciate staff's willingness to engage in dialogue with the public, and also respond to questions, concerns, requests that I make of them. I'm really pleased with both staff and the Harbor Commission's attitude and flexibility. I do have some questions as a slip holder in the harbor and a liveaboard. The slip fee increases do impact me and my neighbors, and actually Mike Wiltshire was kind enough to meet with me and a couple of my neighbors to discuss the budget and the fees recently, and he was very accommodating and helpful. And I just have some questions as someone who is impacted by some of the recent financial headwinds that the harbor is facing. I'm curious that dramatic increase in the deductible that's needed for Stearns Wharf, going up from $250,000 in 2023 to $3 million now. I'm just curious, what is the insurance company's rationale for raising those that deductible so dramatically in such a short period of time? And I'm curious if there's any way to engage with them in dialogue with them to push back on that, negotiate that, or alternatively, and maybe additionally, have we made an effort to talk to other insurance carriers who might not be might not charge such a high deductible? So thank you for considering my comments and questions.
Yep. Thank you for the comment, Mr. Hill. Okay. And actually, just echoing the commenters, when we've reached out to the insurance, is there any justification that you guys can give just for the public, just to know why the deductible has gone up so much?
Yeah, with Stearns Wharf, we have. So our finance department and risk management group have met with insurance providers. Insurance for something like a wharf, it's not like calling up Geico, or you can't like really shop around. These are kind of organized joint purchase agreements between municipalities that have wharfs. The reality is the big recent increase, if you look in the news or the history over the last 3 years of what's happened to wharfs in California, a huge amount of them were either damaged, condemned, shut over the last 4 or 5 years. I know for a fact that Santa Cruz was in our insurance JPA. And so when you think about what insurance is, you pay funds in, and then when something happens to one of the members, the money goes to them. So last winter, a portion of the Santa Cruz's wharf collapsed into the sea. I'm guessing that is a pretty hefty insurance claim that probably used up the majority of the funds that were in our insurance JPA. And so the insurance entity does the accounting that they need to do and say, well, we paid out this claim. To continue paying claims going forward, this is what the deductible would need to be. So I think we're in a tough spot in the fact that, there aren't many people that will insure wharfs at the scale that Stearns Wharf is, or those sort of things, and that, over the last 3 to 4 years, a lot of those premiums got paid out to other entities that had damage to their wharfs.
Great, thanks for that. Commissioner Sedman?
Yes, Director Wiltshire, speaking of old dilapidated structures, what is the Goleta Pier insured?
I don't have an answer to that. That's a county pier. My guess is it is.
Oh, that belongs to the county? Okay. I see.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, with this item, the budget work group met on this. We've discussed kind of it in depth. Mr. Lopez, can you read the recommendation for us for item number 5?
Yes, this is item 5, recommendation the Harbor Commission receive a presentation on the Waterfront Department's proposed fiscal year 2027 budget submittal, excluding discussion on slip-related fees. Discuss and forward recommendation to City Council for approval of the Waterfront Department's proposed fiscal year 2027 budget.
Great, thank you. So at this moment, a motion would be in order for this item.
So move. Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Lopez, can you please give us a vote on this?
Yes, and this is a motion by Commissioner Nelson, seconded by Vice Chair Stedman to approve the staff recommendation. Commissioner Cohen and Hymas are absent. Commissioner McCray?
No.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stedman?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Stanwyck?
Yes.
And that motion passes with Commissioner McCray dissenting.
Okay, we could move from item number 5 on to item number 6 of new business, the fiscal year 2027 waterfront budget recommendation for slip-related fees. Mr. Lopez, can you please read the recommendation for that?
Yes, this is item 6, recommendation the Harbor Commission review proposed fiscal year 2027 slip-related fee changes, discuss and forward recommendation to City Council for approval as a part of the Waterfront Department's proposed fiscal year 2027 budget.
Great, thank you. Before we get started, as many of you know, I'm a boat owner and a slip holder in Marina One, so it's a pretty clear conflict of interest for me to be voting on any slip-related fees. So at this time, I'm going to recuse myself and turn it over to Vice Chair Stedman.
Very well. So are we going to receive another report, Caesar?
That's correct. Thank you, Vice Chair Stedman. So diving right in.
And just for clarification for the public and the Harbor Commission, I know it's kind of confusing. We have a history of splitting our budget presentation into 2. We do that at council as well. It's really just a convenience thing because Chair Stanwyck is a slip holder. And so what this allows to do is allows him to participate in the larger budget conversation, and then we can separate the slip-only related fees. And so this item is specifically related to slip-only fees and slip financial actions so that it can be voted on separately. So more of a comment for the general public just to kind of clarify why it's separated into 2 items.
Thank you, Director Wilshire. Again, thank you, Vice Chair Stedman. So for fiscal year 27, following meetings with the Harbor Commission's budget work group and staff, we as staff were proposing to increase the slip fees by the size of the slip, as you can see in this table, where you can see the slip sizes, the number of slips per category, the current fees being paid, and how these proposed percentage increases translate to dollar amounts. With that, we're proposing an 8% slip permit fee increase for vessels under 40 feet in length, which is the majority of the slips in the harbor. 10% increase for vessels 40 to 60 feet, and a 20% slip fee increase for vessels over 60 feet. As one of the department's most consistent and impactful revenue sources, these increases are required to balance the proposed fiscal year 27 budget. And these increases will include recreational and commercial slips. As I mentioned earlier, no fee increases are proposed to liveaboard permit fees. And again, I noted earlier that the Santa Barbara Harbor consistently ranks amongst the lowest monthly slip fees compared to neighboring harbors. So the total estimated impact of these fee increases is roughly $500,000 in additional revenue for fiscal year 27. Then slip transfer fees are being adjusted based on the policy and guidance from the Harbor Commission and Waterfront staff, which this year, in addition to the originally proposed slip transfer fee schedule, we've included inflationary increases adjustments in line with the proposed percentage increases to slip fees for fiscal year '27. As inflation was not taken into account when the original fee schedule was drafted back in 2019, the values have significantly fall out of, they haven't been aligned since the inception of that table. And that is my brief presentation on slip fees. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner McCray?
Thank you for the question. It's pretty clear to me, having been through this discussion many times over the years, but I think it's important that the public understand why the increasing rate for the larger slips. Could you provide that, please?
Yeah, Commissioner McCray, thank you for that. We had a good meeting with the Harbor Commission Budget Work Group and discussed this at length to talk about kind of blanket rate slip fee increases versus tiered and how we're doing it. The reality is that this is a helpful table. That second column shows how many of each of these slips actually exist. So that group really pertains to 7 slips. The reality is with our harbor, 75+% of our slips are 35 feet and below. So what that does is just create a crazy amount of demand for these larger slips. Anecdotally, since over the last 4 or 5 years, the private to private demand and rate that people are paying for those larger slips has gone up almost 100%. So the financial desire to pay for those is sky high, mainly for the larger slips. So the intent of the slip transfer fee and our monthly slip fees is to, kind of tamp down on that private to private profiting and increasing in rates, as well as to receive some benefit for the resource that belongs to the waterfront and the city. So as opposed to doing 10% across the board, this gives us a chance to provide a slight break to the vast majority of our slip holders, 75+% of them, and correct an economic kind of issue that's occurring with those larger slips. And so that was the thinking. When we met with the work group, we did present a number of scenarios, and this was the preferred scenario.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the commission? Nico, any hands raised?
Vice Chair Stedman, there are no hands raised or speaker slips submitted for this item.
Very well. Commissioner Nelson?
I have a question. Caesar, you mentioned the fact that, we do this annual sort of review of what other harbors, public and private, are charging. Well, since we're putting a pretty significant hike here, it'd really be great if, as part of our budget presentations, you could actually have that chart that would be easily understood, that demonstrates very clearly that our rates are in fact lower than most, because otherwise it's just, we talk about it, but I think the public probably, from a transparency standpoint, ought to see the fact that we've done this analysis, and that analysis concludes that our rates are, less.
Yeah, Commissioner Nelson, I totally agree. These actions today are really just a budget balancing strategy. Right. This is kind of the bare minimum to balance our budget. I think number 3 on the priority list for this year was kind of reviewing slip economics. Yeah. So my hope is that we can get into that over the course of the next year and really look at this, and then we can utilize the Harbor Commission and the public to pick acceptable comparables. Yeah. We could pick kind of a bundle of 5 or 6 harbors that we all agree on, and so we're not just grabbing all these harbors, and so and we could do a true comparison, and then that way when we kind of tee up for our next budget cycle, we can make a decision as a commission or as a group if we want to target market or if we want to be below market, and then we have like a benchmark. So agreed. I think that would be a really good way of doing it, and I think that's an effort that we're willing to take on over the coming months.
That's great.
If there are no further questions or public comment, Nico, can you please read item number 6?
Yes, again, item 6, fiscal year 2027 waterfront budget, recommendation for slip-related fees, recommendation that Harbor Commission review proposed fiscal year 2027 slip-related fee changes, discuss and forward recommendation to City Council for approval as a part of the Waterfront Department's proposed fiscal year 2027 budget.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, and this is a motion by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Commissioner Nelson to approve the staff recommendation for item 6. Commissioner McCray,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Stedman,
Aye.
and Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
And that motion passes with Commissioners Cohen and Hymas absent and Chair Stanwyck recused for this item.
Very well. Thank you. I guess we can, yeah, bring Chair Stanwyck back in.
We increased your slip by 30%.
We got your number. It was his motion.
We were the back.
All right, thank you, guys. All right, I think that was item number 6 of new business. It's completed. We'll move on to item number 7 of new business, the review tenant selection for large office space located at 113 Harbor Way, number 108. Mr. Lopez, can you read the recommendation for us?
Yes, this is the recommendation for item 7, recommendation that Harbor Commission review the result of the request for proposal and recommend that City Council negotiate a lease with the Mystic Ocean Adventures for the 864 square foot office space located at 113 Harbor Way, number 108.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Stanwyck, Commissioners, members of the public. For my last presentation, I bring to you a review of the request for proposal, this time for office space located at 113 Harbor Way. So you may be familiar, this is a large office space in the back of the Waterfront Center building. And you just have, let's see here, give you a better overview of the office space. So this space, we have the larger office on the left, and then the smaller on the right. As you go through the door and on the photo on the left side, that's the smaller office. It's 864 square foot space combined for the two offices. It was previously part of the Anchor Rose restaurant lease, but once we received the space back and following their lease termination in December, it was determined that it would be more functional to the harbor to remove that space from that lease and then activate this area individually. This office is located on the first floor of the Waterfront Center, in the back area adjacent to the NOAA offices. So regarding the request for proposal, RFP, we opened the RFP on February 26th and closed on March 20th. We marketed the space on the city's websites, Craigslist, and also LoopNet. We also emailed individuals who had shown interest in office spaces in the harbor. We posted the flyers at the Marina Gates and also adjacent to the office. With that, ultimately, we only received one proposal from Mystic Ocean Adventures. That's the company that owns and manages the tall ship Mystic Whaler. They're currently based out of Ventura, but they are the official tall ship of the city of Santa Barbara. So although we only received one proposal, it is subject to the same review as if we received multiples. So we go over the business plan for the space, management and application information, as well as their financial information. As part of their business plan, the Mystic Ocean Adventures, or MOA, has outlined a planned center in utilizing the space as their administrative headquarters and an immersive learning center. This initiative aims not only to streamline MOA's operation, but also to foster a dynamic environment for marine education and outreach. In addition, MOA plans to develop the Tall Ship Experience Center, a year-round public-facing educational facility designed to engage visitors of all ages through interactive exhibits, hands-on learning, and maritime programs. The Experience Center will serve as a cornerstone for the community engagement and lifelong appreciation of ocean exploration. This is per their proposal. In regards to management, they are a private 501c3. They have provided management information as requested with Captain Christine Healy as their executive director and their corporate officers, board president Nancy McLear Golden and treasurer Roberta Griffin. In regards to financial information, MOA has earned a silver seal of transparency from Candid, showing it shares key organizational details and demonstrates accountability to donors. That's a very high standard. In regards to their financial health, MOA demonstrates strong, sustainable, and transparent financial practices. They have provided financial validity to fulfill the obligations to enter into a commercial lease with the city of Santa Barbara. And with that, if the Harbor Commission agrees with this request, staff will begin negotiations with Mystic Ocean Adventures and bring a draft lease back to you to review and recommend to the City Council. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Barrios. All right, questions from the commission. Commissioner McRae.
Yeah, just Mr. Barrios, I was curious, how do they plan to use it, that particular space? Are they going to be doing sales out of it at all?
It was not part of their proposal. It primarily will be a learning center. I imagine they may have merchandise that comes along with that. It will be permitted through the process, but we haven't discussed the details of what that would entail since once we get to negotiations, then we would discuss what their plan in detail would be.
Thank you for that. I'm just thinking that they might offer the classes at a fee, for example. I have another question with respect to it. The boat itself, are they already a tenant with the boat at some level?
Commissioner McCray, no, they are in visitor status at the moment, and Director Wilshire would provide more information.
Yeah, Nathan and I have been meeting with them. It's tough. They're 110 feet long, so we have a total of, I want to say 2, maybe 3 spots in the harbor where we could even put them at all. So it's tough because that spot is a visitor spot that we have that can accommodate them. And if we put them in there full time, then, I mean, we have all these, there's a lot of demand for those slips. We have the TAMs and a lot of these vessels that come and pay rates and want to be here. It's really hard to just shut our harbor down to those kind of larger vessels who are visiting. So we're trying our best to find a spot, but they're big.
Thank you. I will be supporting this. However, I think there's an awful lot to think about here. So when you do your negotiations, I would suggest covering all those, thinking about all those bases, because there's a lot of ways that this could be structured, and I hope you find a good one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for that. Commissioner Nelson?
I agree with Commissioner McCrae's last observation. This may sound crazy, but have we ever looked at using Stearns Wharf as a possible place? Because in some of the cities I've lived in, you know, tall ships are crowd pleasers. And it seems a shame not for us to take advantage of that if there's any way possible. And I'm just curious, have we ever done an analysis of Stearns Wharf to see just how difficult it would be or impossible it is to actually have a boat like that there?
Yeah, it's a good question. Historically, that's what Stearns Wharf was used for. We spent about a year trying to get a 100-foot naval ship tied off there, and so we looked at a lot of the engineering, and I think a lot of it comes down to the desirability and the appetite of the captain and the ship owner. It is open ocean at the end of the day. So we have the passenger loading ramp over there that the Azure Seas uses and some of our other tenants use, and on a best day, you know, with minimal swell, there's still a lot of motion. And so if they're okay with that, we could probably come up with a long-term plan to have some more facilities at Stearns Wharf for tie-ups or short-term tie-ups or however that looks.
Commissioner Anderson?
I was just curious, it sounds like historically that area hasn't necessarily been used for a public-facing use, and I'm curious if other tenants in that area are worried about security or like what the flow would actually look like, if it would inhibit museum traffic or confusion on where people are going. Just want to make sure there's some consideration thought around turning that into a more public-facing space than what it has historically been.
Yeah, that's noted. Mr. Barris and I were just talking about that. That small kind of alleyway in the back is pretty heavily utilized with vehicles and offloading and paddle sports and stuff. And so really kind of getting that into the lease language on how they can use that space and enter and exit. It has historically been underutilized, which is not great from a financial point of view, but it will change the use. And so having more people down at the harbor is always good, but we need to definitely properly get them around and safely manage them.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the commission? Mr. Lopez, any public comment online for this item?
Chair Stanwyck, there are no hands raised or speakers submitted for this item.
Okay, thank you. Can you please reread the recommendation for us for item number 7 of new business?
Yes, recommendation that Harbor Commission review the result of the request for proposal and recommend that City Council negotiate a lease with the Mystic Ocean Adventures for the 864 square foot space located at 113 Harbor Way, number 108.
Thank you. So at this moment, a motion would be in order for this item.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Lopez, could we please have a vote on item number 7 of new business, the review tenant selection for large office space located at 113 Harbor Way, number 108?
Yes, and this is a motion by Commissioner McCray, seconded by Commissioner Nelson to move the staff recommendation forward. Commissioner McCray.
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yes.
Commissioner Stedman.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
And Chair Stanwyck.
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously with Commissioners Cohen and Hymas absent.
Thank you. All right, that concludes all of new business. We can move to the department update. The item number 8 is the director's report.
Chair, Commissioners, I will move quickly. I bring good news on dredging. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this will be the best dredging update we've had in about a year. So next slide. So spring 2026, we just completed, or the Army Corps just completed their dredge cycle. We strategically postponed this about as long as we could. We never closed officially, but it was real narrow. We still had depth, but it was getting really, really narrow. As you all know, we did that for a reason. We were trying to kind of maximize the use of the funds we had left because we didn't know if we were going to be getting any more. So luckily, some luck, some thought, but there's always luck involved. We didn't have all that many storms through the spring, and we got the harbor dredge. So they completed this just a couple days ago. They dredged about 185,000 cubic yards from the harbor entrance and deposited that on East Beach. While they were on site, we also paid Pacific Dredge to have an additional 5,000 or so cubic yards dredged. Go next slide. it was really efficient to do that. Now we can kind of just pay their per rate dredging rate with avoiding mobilization and demobilization. So huge thanks to the Army Corps and Pacific Dredge for letting us piggyback on their contract and kind of get some stuff that we needed done while they were here on site as well. What's on screen right now is our post-dredge survey. So green and yellow are good, red is bad and shallow. So if you had you can see that we're wide and clear. All those marked boxes, that is the official federal channel. That's what the Army Corps themselves are contracted and able to dredge in. Any areas outside of that are the responsibility of the Waterfront Department. So those two areas with black circles around them, those are the areas that we had Pacific Dredge take a bite out and do a little bit of extra work. So that larger oval is kind of that wide swing radius when someone's coming into the harbor, gives them a little more space and room coming into the near shore there. And then that spot towards the backside of Marina One gets really tight. We kind of took a big bite out of that to provide a little bit more depth and width right there. So really happy with where we're at right now. The Army Corps is permitted to dredge 120,000 cubic yards. They went above and beyond and got 185,000 out of there this go around. So they stuck their neck out for us, which was a big win. And we're wide and clear as of now. So that's about as good a shape as we can be in. Next slide. Just a couple photos of the dredge at work and the federal channel area. Again, on that right photo, there's a little red circle that kind of shows that bite that we took out of that area behind Marina One. Next slide as well. We dredge to keep the harbor mouth open, but this photo shows that we also dredge to nourish our downcoast beaches. So that photo on the left was taken in November. That was after about a year of not dredging. So that water line is directly up against the ice plant. Even on high tides, it was coming over onto the bike path. That aerial on the right was taken yesterday. And so you can just kind of see the difference in what 185,000 cubic yards of sediment does to the beach and beach width. The value of sandy beach, it's really hard to place a value on it, but it's huge. I mean, people want to go to the beach. They want to put their feet in the sand. They want to be there. And so we always think of dredging as just keeping the harbor open, but it is an enormous benefit to not only our downcoast beaches, but all the way down through Montecito, Summerlin, Carpinteria as that sand moves its way down coast. Next slide. So dredge funding update. So this is where the great news comes in. So again, historically funded and managed by the Army Corps of Engineers. So we were notified last week that Santa Barbara was included in the FY 2026 Army Corps work plan. This was after about a year of operating under the assumption that we didn't know if we were going to have funding. We were not on that list. So as of now, we are. So they have allocated $6.15 million for dredging for Santa Barbara Channel. That should be sufficient to get us through at least 2 more dredge cycles. So hopefully this holds and the Army Corps will be able to bid and move on with the winter 2026 and spring 2027 dredge cycle as planned. As of now, no harbor in the LA district in California has funding for 2027. It was all completely removed from the recommended budget. So we'll continue lobbying not only on our own, but with our neighbors and CMANC, but there was not a single California port in the LA district that received funding for 2027. So that is a massive cut. Wainimi, LA, Ventura. So that is the proposed recommended budget from the president. Congress still has to weigh in on that, and so there's still a lot of time to lobby, but we're in good shape for the next year, and so we'll stay at it and go to work with Congress and Senate and all the folks we've been working with over the last year. So overall a good news story, but still the standard long-range uncertainty that comes with the federal climate right now. So that's all I had, and thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Director Wiltshire. Questions from the Commission? Commissioner McRae?
I just want to comment, wise choice on spending a little bit out of the fund to get those particular grounding areas dredged out. I mean, I think that those are the places that people need to be pulled off of most frequently. wise. And yay us.
Any other questions? Well, thanks for the update and the good news. So thanks for sharing that. I know a lot of questions come in from the public about the dredging and the funding, so I'm glad we have some transparency and forward-looking and everything. So thanks. All right, with that, that concludes all the agenda items. Is there any staff communications?
None tonight. Long meeting.
All right, any commission communications? Commissioner Anderson?
Yesterday, the power was out in a lot of State Street and Funk Zone. Didn't know if that affected the harbor. If it did, like, what does the power outage look like for you guys? Obviously, I'm sure there's generators for the ice and critical stuff, but what does that look like from the day-to-day operations?
It affected Stearns Wharf. So our tenants on Stearns Wharf were without power. A number of those restaurants did get generators and were operating. I believe it's back on now. Yeah, power's back on now. So, but yeah, it took out a whole bunch of clients in the Funk Zone and Stearns Wharf area. So obviously a lot of business tenants were struggling yesterday for business. So head down there this weekend and double up. Give them some business. They deserve it. They were down for a day.
Commissioner Nelson,
Real
communication?
Last, as you recall, we approved a letter to the Fish and Game Commission at last month, and I know there was a hearing, a long hearing, this week. Commissioner McCrae was there, and I think there are the remainder of the Santa Barbara petitions are coming up in early May. Would it be possible to ask Chris or Commissioner McCrae to give us a report on where the status of those at that meeting on all of the Santa Barbara petitions?
Right. So the two petitions that really stand to impact Santa Barbara is 34. It was large. The recommendation from the Department of Fish and Wildlife was to deny that particular proposal, which it's great news to hear for fishermen, but this is just the beginning because the Fish and Game Commission can do what they feel is the best thing to do. And it might not be what the department recommends. Right now, we're hoping it is. There are 5 tribal petitions. There were a lot of questions that the department didn't have answers to in order to be able to do the analysis for them as well, so they held back. The tribal meeting the day before the commission meeting was mostly about finding out what the tribes really wanted so that the department could continue forward with the analysis of those as well. So they got that clarity, and it was proposed to the full commission the following day, yesterday, and the commission accepted it. So they'll start that analysis. We will, in the regional meetings, we will see those talked about by the public, and the public's comments come in for those. However, the analysis with respect to those won't be ready, and my guess is it'll take a little bit of time to get it done.
Okay. That's it.
Yeah, thanks for the updates. All right, any other communications from the commission? All right, with that, we can move on to adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.